Garvax gripped his side as he limped through the rubble. Green blood seeped between his claws, dripping onto the dusty ground. The battle was lost. His squad lay dead or captured behind him, just more casualties in this endless war between Rixians and the Teak Alliance. Another explosion rocked the bombed-out buildings nearby. Garvax ducked behind a chunk of concrete, breathing hard. He had to keep moving or the Teak scouts would find him. Footsteps crunched in the debris. Garvax froze. Had they found him already? He fumbled for his rifle with one claw. If he was going down, he'd take some of the enemy with him. Voices filtered through the haze of smoke. But the guttural sounds of the Teak language were absent. Instead, strange syllables Garvax had never heard before reached his antennae. Who else could be here? Everyone had fled this war-ravaged city long ago. Risking a peek around the edge of the concrete, Garvax's compound eyes widened. Bipedal aliens in sandy uniforms picked through the rubble. Humans. They must be a new species he hadn't encountered. Garvax wavered, unsure if he should reveal himself. Most alien races treated Rixians like him with disdain, seeing his kind as primitive insectoids. But he needed help or he'd never make it back to his base. Mind made up, he stepped out from behind the chunk of building. "Help!" he rasped in Universal, the common tongue used by spacefaring species. "I need assistance." Every human weapon swung toward him. Garvax raised his claws in surrender. One alien barked an order and the rest of the squad relaxed slightly. Two humans approached, their faces unreadable behind angular helmets. The apparent leader looked Garvax up and down. "You're no Teak," he remarked in Universal. "You with the Rixians?" Garvax nodded. "I was separated from my squad. I require medical aid." The human tapped the comm device on his shoulder. "Charlie team, this is Alpha. I've got a wounded soldier here. Rixian by the looks of him. Requesting permission to bring him in for treatment." "Copy at Alpha," a voice crackled over the comm. "Permission granted. Watch for Teak patrols." "Will do. Alpha out." The human leader waved over a companion carrying a large white case with a red cross on it. "Smith here will patch you up. Then you can come back to our camp." Garvax sank down against a chunk of debris, groaning in pain. The other human kneeled beside him. His helmet lenses were transparent, allowing Garvax to see small, round eyes and a pink face as he opened the medical kit. Strange, but not the strangest species Garvax had come across. With quick, nimble fingers, Smith cut away the makeshift bandage Garvax had tied across his wound. The human cleaned away the dried green blood before spraying on a numbing foam. Then he sealed the gash with a liquid bandage that stung briefly before the anesthetic cooled the pain. "That should stop the bleeding and hold until we can get you proper treatment." He held out a hand. "Let me help you up." Garvax hesitated before extending a pincer. The human pulled him easily to his feet. To his surprise, Garvax found their hands were similar in size, though the human only balanced on two legs. Leaning against Smith, Garvax limped after the rest of the squad. The leader maintained a watchful eye, scanning the rubble for any sign of Teak troops. "What's your name, friend?" Smith asked. His Universal was slow but understandable. "I am Garvax, medic of the 5th Rixian Brigade." Smith thumped his chest. "I'm Corporal Jake Smith, Alpha Squad, 555 the Human Battalion." He gestured to the leader scanning the route ahead. "That's Sergeant Mike Davis." Human names were oddly short compared to Rixian designations, but Garvax committed them to memory out of courtesy. He studied the back of Davis' uniform, noting the human's blood type stenciled beside an identification number. It seemed humans shared the Rixian tradition of wearing such labels clearly in case a medic needed the information to save their lives. Interesting! They moved carefully through the ghost city until the bombed-out buildings gave way to a refugee camp sprawling across the plains beyond. Rows of drab tents bearing alien insignia sheltered a multitude of species. Garvax spotted a few Rixian soldiers among the crowds. Smith steered him towards a large medical tent marked with a red cross matching the symbol on the medic's kit. Inside, cots were filled with wounded soldiers from many races. Garvax chirped in surprise when Smith set him on a cot next to a teak, whose arm was bandaged where his claw had been amputated. A human nurse hurried over, followed by Davis. The sergeant spoke briefly with the nurse before returning to Garvax. "We've got this, soldier," Davis said. "You'll be safe here while they get you patched up. I'll have guards keep an eye out so no one bothers you." He clasped Garvax's pincer, then left with a nod. The nurse cleaned Garvax's injury again and applied fresh bandages. "You need rest," he advised in Universal. He brought broth and water, waiting patiently as Garvax fumbled the cup in his claws. Then the nurse dimmed the lights around Garvax's cot before moving away. Despite his confusion and anxiety, Garvax's exhaustion pulled him into deep sleep. When he woke, the aching torment of his wound had faded. Across the tent, he noticed the wounded teak absent from the neighboring cot. A human appeared by his side, female by the shape of her armor. "Hello? I'm Lieutenant Wilson. How are you feeling?" "Much improved. Thank you," Garvax replied. "Excellent! Once the medic clears you, we'll take you back to rejoin your people. Your people have just established a new command post not far from here." Garvax drank from the cup she handed him. "Your medics helped the teak soldier as well. Why?" Wilson looked surprised by the question. "You were both hurt. We don't discriminate when it comes to giving medical aid." "But we are enemies." "Maybe as soldiers," Wilson said. "But a wounded sapient being is a wounded sapient being. We all bleed the same." She paused. "Is it different with your people?" Garvax tilted his head, antennae twitching. "Rixian brigades only treat our own, and we must prove our worth constantly to earn basic aid or resources." "I see." Wilson stretched out a hand, like Davis and Smith had done. Garvax extended his pincer unsurely, and she clasped it. "Then it seems humans still have much to teach our people about compassion. You fought hard, soldier. You've proven your worth. Rest and recover." She squeezed his claw gently before leaving. Soon, the medic declared Garvax fit for travel. Wilson assigned a squad to escort him to his people's new base. Davis and Smith came to see Garvax off, clasping his pincer in the human gesture of farewell. "Stay safe out there," Smith said. Garvax hesitated, then reached out to clasp Smith's hand with both pincers. "And you as well, friends. I owe you both my life." Davis chuckled. "Just doing our job. We fight the good fight, Garvax." The Rixian watched the two humans recede as his transport slipped away over the dusty plains. Their simple kindness had surprised him. Never before had a medic treated Garvax with such care just because he was hurt, not based on his status or rank. These humans truly were remarkable. When Garvax rejoined his brigade, he would share what he had learned of them. Our people could benefit much from such compassion. If more species thought as the humans did, perhaps there would be fewer senseless battles like the one that had wounded Garvax in the first place. Perhaps they could even end this war and lay down their arms at last. Garvax could imagine it. Sitting across from a teak, not as enemies, but sharing a meal together. Talking. Laughing. The dream of peace kindled in his chest. If humans could hold out care and kindness even on the battlefield, what more could they achieve? Garvax would remember their example. For in the humans lay hope for a better future if others could only learn to follow their lead.